Tennessee General Assembly, and we're fortunate to have with us Representatives MPruitt and ELangster. And of course, Representative ELangster, before we had our commercial break, I think we promised that we would talk about current and proposed legislation when we came back during the second segment. And let's have you to start us off by giving us some information about some of the legislation that is of special concern to you as a representative from the 54th Legislative District. Let's talk about that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Haney. This 100th General Assembly, we have completed the first half, and the second half will begin in January. There were over 2,037 bills filed. Over 661 bills were passed. But one bill, which is, I think, important to all Tennesseans, not only the 54th District, but what came to my attention when I was first campaigning for this seat, senior citizens, women with small children, infants, the elderly, they kept saying to me, look at the bottom of their grocery receipt. And it is just astronomical, the amount of sales tax that we pay here in Tennessee on food. As recently, it has just come to my attention that Georgia is going to be removing the sales tax off of food for home consumption. The state of Tennessee is an unusual state in that it is surrounded by 8 states. And I don't think that you will find on the continental United States another state that is surrounded that way. Most of the states surrounding us either have a lottery or the sales tax off of food. The sales tax on food, I know it generates the foundation for the revenue for the state of Tennessee. It is one of the major sources of revenue for the state of Tennessee. But I have to look at the people that I mentioned earlier, women, infant, children, the elderly, families getting started. And I often thought, why do we pay so much sales tax on food? So upon entering the General Assembly, I filed a bill which would eliminate the sales tax off of food. That is over $560 million. Now you take that much out of your budget, you've got to make up the difference somewhere. So I knew in filing this bill it would be an uphill climb all the way. But with the help of Representative MPruitt, who is also a prime co-sponsor of this legislation, because not only do I have that interest, but citizens in the 58th District are also. It is a regressive tax. It is some people have to decide who live in America, do I this week buy my diabetes medicine, my high blood pressure medicine, or do I buy a nutritious meal? A lot of folks, a lot of people buy meals on a daily basis, and sometimes they go and buy their breakfast, and then in the evening they go back to their local corner grocery store to get their evening meal. So as you can see, poor people or people with lower incomes, all of us are paying a high sales tax on food. So I asked the General Assembly, I put in the hopper a bill to remove or reduce the sales tax on food. Of course, that met with a quite deal of interest, as well as where you're going to make up the difference. So in entering this bill, we attached an amendment to the bill which says that the Tennessee Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations would take up this summer, along with the Physical Review Committee, which Mrs. Pruitt is a member of, to study this issue. How is it regressive? How is it a burden on poor folks? 55% of the state of Tennessee's population, they live along the borders. And across, if you can go across the state line, if you live 15 to 20, as we in Nashville, live 35 miles from the Kentucky border. If you can go across the border and get your gas, buy cigarettes, and buy groceries for the week, why shouldn't you if you can do it at a much lower level than buying it in the state of Tennessee? So it is having a very strong economic impact. We understand that cities, the local governments depend on this sales tax, as well as our state government. But I think if other states can be just as innovative and find a way to reduce the sales tax on food, Tennessee should also. So this commission is undertaking as we speak, looking at it, getting the numbers together, seeing how there's a deficiency, and just seeing what can we do to generate another major source of revenue. If we can reduce it 1 or 2 pennies this year, it would be a help to so many families. And that is the backbone of my legislation, of current legislation. This is the one that is most important to me, that affects everyone in the state of Tennessee. And we have great hopes and aspirations that when the report comes back, that we will be ready to file a bill that will aid citizens in this effort.
Very good. Representative Pruitt, as a co-sponsor of this bill, what are some of your views in reference to it?
As Representative ELangster has mentioned, I am a member of the Fiscal Review Committee, and of course, the Fiscal Review Committee has a responsibility overseeing how state government operate and how the different commissioners and et cetera are carrying out the mandates of the General Assembly and et cetera. Of course, the sales tax, as she has already said, is the major source of revenue for the state of Tennessee, and of course the Constitution requires that we pass a balanced budget, so that means that the money has to be there. Now what we should do, or should the possibilities are, look at a state income tax or a lottery or etc. I think a state income tax would be one of the forms of taxing that would bring in the amount of revenue that's needed for the state. Because those persons who live around the border, the citizens of Tennessee who work out of the state of Tennessee into those states that do have income tax, the state of Tennessee does not get any returns because they don't have a income tax in place. So that is another downside of what Tennessee is doing as far as that is concerned. Of course, there are other sources of revenue, but the sales tax is possibly about 3/4 of the revenue for state government in order to run the government itself. So I'm very supportive of what she's trying to do. It affects the people that I represent. Matter of fact, it affects all people. And if you look at the dynamics of it, it is, to me, as I look at it, if my salary is $400 a month and someone else's salary is $4,000 a month, we're paying the same amount of tax on a loaf of bread as those who have a means to pay more. So it is regressive, it is an unfair tax, and it's a burdensome on those people who are just trying to make it and trying to put food on the table for their children and their families. So we do need, as lawmakers, to make sure that we do something about the inequities of the sales tax.
Very good. And of course, we're coming up to our second commercial break here. We've got about 15 seconds, after which we'll come back and deal with some of the other issues that the two of you would like to talk about. But certainly, I would agree with you that the tax is very, very important. And we'll be back with you following this short commercial break.